blew that out of the water and said, it's going to be this goal. And we're still sitting here going, I don't know how it's possible. And now we're suddenly about to say, oh, we did the whole thing in 1 year. Why not?
I do remember watching that that module from the bomb, the original bomb.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool. That's cool how that happens. And now watching it, like, I think we're on track to hit that 5-year goal this year or next year, assuming nothing else happens.
Right.
Which is ahead of schedule for that one.
When the things that we do see are on the rise and happen, and we 100x that number, what better testimony to the exact way we're talking about execution, or as we like to call it, operate.
Welcome back to The Ether, the show that disrupts the way you think about running your business. Join me, Brandon, and my co-host, Sean Delaney, the creator of What If, on today's episode. Our goal is to provide context around what we talk about so you have the clarity to cut through the noise and the confidence to grow and run a truly harmonious business. Let's jump in and take the next step to achieving business freedom.
Business freedom sounds fun.
It sounds awesome. It sounds so liberating. I'm laughing though at the, not that it's bad, but at the part where you say in the intro, where we give context around what we're talking about, because it just sounds like, well, we do have to do that, because why are you talking about, we've talked about pigeons and bears on this
I know.
show. We've talked about all kinds of things. We got to give context.
That's why.
But that sounds like a very, am I rubbing off on you somehow? That sounds like a very Sean thing to say. Like when I said, well, what do? We do what we do. So let's do what we do. You know,
well, it's one of those things where it's like, we're not better than anybody for giving context. No, we talk about the most ridiculous things. So we must give context in order to keep people with us.
We have to. Yeah, it wasn't bragging. It's like, what do we do on the show? We got to give some context for what we're talking about.
Looney Tunes.
Public service announcement. Less than an entertaining or education show. This is a PSA.
Well, we're going to sprint through this PSA today. We got places to be and people to see, and we're helping people grow their businesses on the Inner Circle right after we record this. So let's get right to it. We said in the intro, we're going to help you create business freedom. So check out this clickbaity title for the episode, How to Grow from 7 to 8 Figures and Beyond While Working Less. We're talking about freedom. Is that not business freedom?
That is business freedom. Although we're not talking about freedom from a time allocation standpoint right now. We're talking about operate, right? Is that what we're talking about today? We're going to go through the bad.
We're going to go through the bad again. We're going to talk about our discipline of operate. It's the 5 questions you need to ask around. The other way to look at it is execution. How are you getting done what you're getting done, and why did you choose those things to get done? So for me, this is the missing piece when I talk to a lot of small business owners. We have people on our podcasts, we go on other podcasts, we have clients who are 7-figure businesses, and the thing that gets them stuck is they think they have to do all things. And that is what we're going to argue against today, because that is the way you grow your business, by doing less. How's that sound?
Sounds amazing. What a good system it sounds like we have here. That's outstanding.
So we're going to ask these 5 questions. Yeah, what are you going to say?
So we're talking about the 5 questions that are contained inside the BAD, the Business Architecture Diagnostic. The architecture that we're talking about is the harmonious business architecture that contains the 10 fundamental business disciplines that every business, regardless of size, industry, or location, must deal with because they are present. It's like saying you have to deal with gravity every day because it's here. It's reality. You either know about it or don't. It happens regardless. Take that, quantum physicists out there in the world. So the thing happens regardless of what you're doing to it. So in order to discern how you as a business are doing with those 10 disciplines, we have to somehow uncover what's going on, the hidden blockages to a harmonious existence for your business, which if you had, you would go further, faster, funner, but you don't, which is why we're here talking about it, because nobody does, truly, right? So In order to illuminate what is holding us back, we have the business architecture diagnostic, the bad, in order to give you clarity. I've been banging my head against the wall, guys, and scaling seems really hard for everybody because now we've accepted that it's hard. It doesn't have to be. So what we've done, where we are now with operate, that's a word we're not talking about operations. We're talking about how you execute. Again, we use disruptive titles because we don't want you to think about project management like project management, which is essentially what this is, right? So in our model, we went through navigation, which is core values, mission, and your 5-year vision. Well, if you said it right, that 5-year vision looks super scary. The you of today cannot achieve that 5-year vision. You must grow in order to get there. That's how you know it's far enough away. You can conceive of how you might get there, then you're too close to it. Maybe you set the objective further out, okay? So now that we have that, this is overwhelming though. It doesn't help me. I mean, it helps me enormously. I have my core values and my mission and my vision to know who I am and who I'm serving and what that's going to result in down the road. That's great. But I have fulfillment over here. When are we going to get to that, to the operations? Hold on, camper. Because fulfillment is how you do the thing that you're doing today to sort of tread water. It's what you're doing. I need to fulfill. If you want to grow, you need to be better at that fulfillment or do it more frequently to more people. Something must change. So our business is where we are today, and we've identified a delta from where we are today to where we want to go in 5 years. But now we need to make this actionable and not so scary and a little more simple. And so then we need to allocate our time and resources to effectuating change, not just doing the day-to-day. We'll get to the day-to-day later. Right now we're saying, in order to move us from here to there and effectuate change, I have to do some projects. We have to do some things. But there's like a million things from now to that grand vision. So what do? We take that 5 years and we bring it down to 1 year. What can we reasonably do from 5 to 1? And understanding that our scaling is going to look like a hockey stick. So let's figure out what we need to do in 1 year, 1 quarter, and take that 1 quarter and turn that into a 12-week sprint of some kind. And you're allowed to do 3 of them. So you're going to have 3 big goals, and this is where you start to need to think about KPIs, and you need to execute on those with ruthless precision. And here's the beautiful thing. Do you agree? Brandon, I don't know if you agree. But the beautiful thing about this that people get is not so much the power of, yes, there's enormous power in saying we're only going to do these 3 things, and we're going to bump that up against our decision tree of, can we delete a new thing, delay it, delegate it, or do we have to do it? But when do we do it? Because we only have so much bandwidth. So we're going to do these 3 projects, and we're going to let the rest of the stuff sit and wait for us to get there, because it has to. Because if we try to do all things, it's like imagining a block of houses on fire, and you got one fire truck, and you're going to drive it up and down the street and get every house a little bit wet until they all burn to the ground eventually. Or you stop at the first house and say, we're putting this fire out. I know the rest are burning. We're putting this one out. And then we're going to go to the next one. And then we're going to go to the next one. In order of importance, whatever that means, towards you effectuating your vision. That's what you have to do. So this is where the clients we work with, they start to feel some relief, because yes, there's enormous power in focusing on what you're doing, but it might be even more power in giving yourself permission to not do a whole lot of stuff. Because if you're choosing to do 3 big projects, you're choosing to not do the other 197 that are calling to you saying, come to us too. You also need more leads. Hold on. More marketing. Come this way. No, hold on a second, right? So that is the power of the bad. I'll pause there for a second, Brandon, for your reactions.
Yeah, they feel the most relief after going through this, which for us is step 2 in the process. We usually tackle this right after navigation, which we talked about last week. Go check out that episode. When we break down the 5-year vision, like Sean said, they feel the most relief, but they also push back the most because it's counterintuitive. Because as entrepreneurs and small business owners, the most common thing is they accept that we're telling them to pick 3 projects and break them down in immense detail so they actually get done. But then a week into it, they're like, but I'm so used to doing so many more things. And they start to ask if they can do more. And we say no, because you have limited amount of resources, and they just naturally want to be doing more. It does take a minute to get in the habit of doing less. But then after a couple of weeks of doing it this way, you start to see that exponential improvement in what you're doing. And that's when the true acceptance comes in of saying, no, less actually is more, like Charmin told us it would be. You can be way more effective by doing it this way rather than being a squirrel or a chicken with your head cut off and just, like Sean said with the firefighting, running around from project to project. So,
and people burn out less. The projects become, because they need the bandwidth to execute on the day-to-day and do some of that firefighting, because we haven't smoothed everything out in the operation yet. So there's still disharmony, there's still friction building up, and that's going to create fires for us. That's how these things work. And so we need to reserve some of that, and we need to be able to execute flawlessly. And so by paring it down and getting very focused, and what do we find? So what happens is they got 3 projects and they go, this is great, but they're all going well. And we all could be busier. I'm just going to add on this extra project because everything's going well. Everything's going well because you didn't add that extra one on. Because you add that one on, okay, maybe you've got 4 and you're keeping it okay. But then you think, well, if 4 is good, 5's better. And you will find that breaking point. And then every one of the projects suffers and starts to collapse on you. And you go, oh, what happened? It was all going so well. It must be some external thing to my business that screwed us up.
No, it's not. So we're going to go through the 5 questions. We're going to ask them. You're going to think about them, and we're going to try to do this. You think we could do it in less than 2 minutes per question? Is that possible? All right. So these questions are on the BAD. You can go take the BAD. It's on the screen. whatif.com/clarity. It'll bring you right there. So don't even worry about it. You can go take this assessment, answer these questions for yourself. Number 1, again, they're written in the form of a statement to scale them, to grade them on a scale of 1 to 10. We're going to just transform them into a question. So do you have a process to set goals and move towards them? So Sean, on the surface, this seems like a very simple question. Mm-hmm. Unpack this for me. What are we really asking about, and what is a process to set goals and move towards them?
So at this point, we don't really know you and your business. What we're trying to discern here is, this is the bridge. So the questions and operate. I'm taking extra time on the first one because it'll speed up the rest of them. I'm just going to set the context. The crazy thing about the questions and operate is you would expect them to be project management-y type of questions, and they're not going to look like it, because this is the first time now that we're starting to bridge to different parts of the architecture. So you're saying, well, why are you asking me questions that look like they're pointing over there or pointing over here? It's because I'm trying to bridge things back here. I could just ask you the question of, do you manage projects? And then there's 15 more questions I want to know around that. So, and I don't have to ask the first question because I know you manage projects. And if you don't think of them that way, then I know you manage terrible projects. But you are doing projects right now in your business. So I don't have to ask it. That would be like a nutritionist's first question, or a dietitian asking, so have you ever eaten before, and do you plan on continuing to eat? I already know the answer. So in this real estate, we're asking here, do you have a process? I want to know, do you think about things in a cyclical way as a repeatable process? And by saying, you're setting goals, you know that we just asked you questions around navigation. So I know whether or not you're able to have a vision that you can point to and that is effective in your business. What I don't know is did you have a process now to take that and turn it into something, to set goals, to think about KPIs? I don't want to hammer you all with that here. That's why this first level question is where it is, to say, is there a process around this? And are you setting goals and moving towards them? That tells me a lot. That is essentially the essence of, are there projects here in your business?
Perfect. I love it. And the other thing we're looking at too, when we dive into this, breaking down the report with people, is seeing how you when we say the word goals, seeing how you identify with that word, because for some people it's just, I want to double my business. Okay, fantastic. That is a air quotes goal. But if you don't think about how you're going to get to that point, or if that's just pulling out of a hat a random number, we want to understand how you're thinking about goals and moving towards them. That's the second half of the question, because that's really going to tell us, again, how you think about projects and how you think about dissecting your quote unquote goals or outcomes.
And the way the way all the questions here are worded, it's not obvious that there are other questions in the bad that are asking this from a different direction. And we're looking for a misalignment to that. So if you say, oh, we absolutely do here, and then the three other hidden questions and the rest of the bad, show me, demonstrate to me that you have not, I know that there's a misalignment somewhere.
Tricky. All right, question 2. Do you efficiently use tools to manage your workflows?
We're looking for, are you doing things by the seat of your pants? Do you have some kind of tool? We don't care what your project management tool is, but there should be something there. You should understand. We're already starting to question whether or not you see things as workflows. Are these projects independent of anything anybody is doing? Or are we trying to change something inside the business? Because we can also think sometimes that we can do projects in order to manipulate the outside world. We can't do that. We can only work inside the ship, inside the container. We might have influence on the world based on what we're doing, but the things that we work on with these projects are internal to ourselves in order to effectuate greater change on the world with this vehicle that we have. That makes sense?
Absolutely. Okay. The word efficiently is a good one too, because
because how many people have we heard? Oh yeah, I use Asana for this and Trello for that and Notion for that.
Or worse,
whiteboard. Yeah, and a whiteboard and all kinds. We use 11 tools. That sounds hideous and not efficient at all. So the use of tools might be a good thing, might be a bad thing. Efficiently in there, could have swapped that out for a different modifier, but that's the one we went with. That's what
I love it. All right, number 3 of 5. Do you have systems in place to identify and eliminate bottlenecks? This is my favorite question in this section, I think, because
why
people always push back and they're like, I don't know. I mean, problems just come up and I fix them. And I'm like, so 0, you give yourself a 0.
100%. You're the best. If you're driving on the highway and you go, look at this, man, the road is usually packed, but there is nothing but clear streets in front of me. Where are all the people? They're behind you. Get out of the way. Okay. So frequently they'll say, well, no, there's no bottlenecks here. I mean, I wish I had more time. Why do you wish you had more time? Well, because this is piling up, that's piling up. Buddy, you're the bottleneck. So do you have systems in place to get around you being the bottleneck or anyone being the bottleneck? I don't know. Because if we said, are there bottlenecks? Then they get wishy-washy. Well, sure. Well, things get hung up here and there, and it's this, that. Here we want to know, are you thinking about things as, are you thinking about systems in the way to grease the skids on some of the workflows and things that have to happen in order to allow change to happen faster?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons it's my favorite. I always remember I had this, I think it was an operations management course or something like that in college. And the professor was actually somebody who ran the manufacturing department of a major company locally. So it's not just like a theory professor. And it was always so cool to me the way that when they were introducing a new product or manufacturing line, whatever it is, they would proactively identify the bottlenecks and eliminate them before they even turn the manufacturing line on. Whereas most entrepreneurs are just like, yeah, let's see what happens. Let's turn it on and put Band-Aids on it as we go.
We'll figure it out. We'll find the bottlenecks as soon as our heads ram straight into them, headlong. Right? No.
So much cost associated with that. Don't do that, please. All right. Question 4. Do our employees know how their work outputs affect their colleagues?
Some might think this is an HRE question, so put this in your HR bucket. And this is people. This is a people question. And it is, or it is, and it is, and it isn't. It's also this connects this from strategy to project management to then later order, which is the day-to-day. I want to see And then ultimately that lands in home, which is humans optimized in a meaningful environment. This is bringing meaning to someone's day-to-day job. But here we're starting to kick the tires on. Are people pulled into projects and go, oh, busy work. What did I do wrong? Excuse me? Yes. What did I do wrong to get pulled onto this project? Everybody knows project work sucks. And am I being punished for something? No, what are you talking about? So I want to see, are the people who are on the project seen as the champions of change, as the heroes for the organization? Because what they are doing, we as a team know that you, Brandon, you're on the team, you're going to make things better for us in how we execute on our jobs, because you understand how your job is connected to this project and how the project is connected to your job and how all of that connects to the mission and to the clients that we're serving. This is the first surreptitious little probing at that to see, are those connections there?
Yeah, and it also paints a picture of how the rest of the companies run, because the one thing you said there was where it touches order, and then home is about understanding your value chain. So when you're breaking down a project, it's very easy to just assign tasks to people, especially if you have a bigger organization. But if someone's just doing data entry, they may think it's meaningless and it doesn't really matter. But what if they're the potential bottleneck to hold up the rest of the project, and they don't understand that, and they also think they are meaningless? It's if you're not clearly painting that picture in a project, you're probably not doing it company-wide either, and there's some disconnect there.
Amen.
Question 5, the last question. This is always a fun one too. Do we take on the right amount of work to avoid overburden?
And so we alluded to this at the very beginning. We said, what is the whole point of this? And saying, limiting you to the number of projects, saying, this is what we have the bandwidth for. We're going to get laser focused on it. We know that across the 10 disciplines, these 2 are the place where we have the most room to improve. So we're going to get the most leverage out of that in order to hit our goal or move towards our vision. So we're just doing ubiquity. We're just talking about marketing on this project, on these 2 projects, whatever it is. And then we know what the metric is, and we're going to get laser focused on it. The rest of it can sit for a minute, and we will get more done in this discipline than most people will in a year, because they're just kind of picking at it. Well, we're going to hit it for 12 weeks. And we have seen that for ourselves, right? But so this question about the right amount of work, this is to see, do we have 11 ill-defined projects? Some of them are overlapping, and it's just a lot of run, plus also trying to fight fires, plus also trying to fulfill. Is that how we're operating? Or are we really strategic? And this is the first sort of probing to see where our understanding is and how we're executing on our projects.
I love it.
Yeah.
This was fun. It was questions in disguise, which I like.
Some of them are.
Right?
Some of them are.
Next week,
it took a long time to refine them to where they are.
No, and they connect. I was just looking over, so I'm reading off of someone's actual bad results. So they gave themselves a 3 for that question, which is obviously very low on the scale. I jumped down to serenity, which is how they manage their time and their calendars, and they got less than 5 in all 5 questions. So do they take on the right amount of work to avoid overburden? Was a 3, and their time management was all over the place.
And so then we say, and so this is sort of how we read these things, where if there was a misalignment there, we say, okay, now we need to probe, because something's off. There's something not right. Either the entrepreneur themselves isn't answering the questions right or not understanding them, or they're lying to themselves and they want to sound like, and on one of them, they got caught off guard, told the truth. On the other one, no, they want to make it sound different. And so we don't know, but we have to probe there. But on this, when we see that kind of alignment, we say, yeah, we know exactly what's going on there, vis-a-vis project management and your time management and a whole bunch of other stuff.
I love it. Well, next week, we're going to dive into 5 more questions about order, about your process management, how to be more efficient and get things through your business in a better way. So we'll see you on the next episode of The Ether. Thanks for tuning in.
Take the bad.